Wasn't this after? The drinks are sponsored by Changes, which are organizing a blockchain event here in Amsterdam on the 4th and 5th of May. Look them up online. Where am I supposed to look? There? So we are here with David Salgado, Head of Operation of Materium. Materium is a London-based project founded by Vinay Gupta and is dealing with smart contract and their enforceability. When did actually Materium start, and what is the idea behind it and the reason why it was started?
So Materium, I think, started around August 2017, roughly. And there are a lot of underlying reasons why Materium was founded. I think fundamentally, everybody agrees that blockchain technology has a huge degree of promise and could be revolutionary in the fields ranging from global trade to personal identity, data trading that we talked about. And there are use cases at the interface between the digital world and the physical world that we're really only just even beginning to think about, like property rights and augmented reality. So if you want to buy advertising space, and this is a crass example, but if you wanted to buy advertising space in a particular layer of augmented reality around a certain point in a city, for example, those property rights are they're not directly intellectual property rights, they're not physical property rights, they're a whole new kind of thing. And the interface between cutting-edge digital technology and the real world, the world we live in now, is kind of where we want to be. And Materium exists to inhabit that space and kind of build a bridge between where we are now and the future. And one of Vinay's points that he's made in a number of talks is that the future is our biggest trading partner. So we need a way to facilitate trade with that partner, and that's kind of what we're here to do.
So you see blockchain as an emerging solution to emerging problems. You are more focused on the future, or do you see blockchain also as a tool to fix some frictions that have emerged in the past years?
I think there's certainly the potential for both, but blockchains are not going to fix anything by themselves. So one of the things that I was talking about in my presentation that I didn't really harp on particularly is that we need people to be able to do things on the blockchain. And by do things, as I spoke about, I'm not talking about buy stuff with a credit card, because we can do that already. If it works with a credit card, we know how to do it. It's kind of fine. Blockchain technology has the ability or the potential to provenance, for example, making use of the power that blockchain gives you to have a trustworthy record of what it was that people actually did. And I think that's the real promise of blockchains, is to be that digital evidence record of who did what in the context of this agreement, so that we can track the promises that we made, we can track if we gave $100 million to go build a bunch of infrastructure in a developing country, we can identify where that money went. And so there is certainly potential to fix, or at least to try to fix, all sorts of problems relating to the converse of that, which is obfuscation, corruption, lack of accountability, things happening that we don't know about, money going missing. So, sorry, that's a very rambling answer, but I think there is absolutely potential for blockchain technology to address current problems and not just future problems. And what we want to do is to make sure that blockchain is actually useful enough for people in the real world right now, that we have that kind of infrastructure layer available to us in the future for these sort of more blue sky ideas.
So I understand what you say, and I think that technology, to really make a change, needs to go together with other changes, surrounding change, of course. Technology alone does not solve any problem. Technology alone doesn't change anything. So we will probably need social changes, change in the mentality, and change in the legal system, or something else, maybe. In your opinion, what do you think should be there next to blockchain technology, around blockchain technology, to support the paradigm shift that potentially could enable?
Wow, that's a really interesting question. So if we're talking about legal systems, and I'm absolutely not a legal scholar, so please don't take this for anything more than my personal opinion, I think that some changes are needed to recognize the validity of blockchain audit logs as proof of something that we care about. So there are a lot of contradictions in the legal system. For example, one of the projects I was looking at a while back, before I joined Materium, we talked about looking at signatures as a thing. So we were looking at legal forms and saying, well, can we make this form better? How do we put this form online? If we just put the form online in its current form, it's not going to work. And part of the problem is signatures, because signing things online is kind of a mess, really. There are sort of laws around it, and there are technological tools to try and make it work, but they're quite hard to use. They're kind of clunky. And then the question arose, well, why is there a signature on this thing? What is that for? And we use signatures as a proxy for identity. Everything comes down to identity in the blockchain space. And in the real world, we say this is valid because I signed it, but that's rubbish, because signatures are ridiculously easy to forge, and 99 times out of 100, nobody actually looks at them anyway. When you have, I don't know about the case in the Netherlands, but in the UK, an awful lot of the forms where you have to sign them, the reason that you have to sign them is a piece of legislation that says there must be a wet signature in ink on this thing. But nobody actually ever looks at that signature or cares about it at all. What you're actually doing is you're entering some data that says something about the world or something that you want to happen, and somebody is then using that data to validate, oh yes, this person with this national insurance number at this address really does exist, and this is true, so we better make this change that they've asked for with this form. So, sorry, that's a very long-winded way of saying that I think there's an awful lot in the legal system that's kind of outdated, and if we want to be able to use this sort of technology, which is just now sort of coming to the fore, we need to make changes in the legal system to make sure that we have a sensible interface between the legal system and the technology. So if I take a document and I put the hash of it on a blockchain, that's a much, much more secure proof that that document existed in that form at that time than anything else that we have right now. But as far as I'm aware, there isn't any legal recognition of that. And that kind of thing, I think, are the kinds of changes that we need to make.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
I would go on with this conversation for hours. Unfortunately, we have restricted time in front of the camera. And so we can say hi to everyone who's following us on the live stream. And thank you very much, David Salgado from Ethereum.
Thank you.
It was a pleasure.
A little bit of promo for some other events. So tomorrow we'll be in Rotterdam with a different lineup, but we're really excited, and it will be the second time that we'll be in Rotterdam. So if you know people who are interested in blockchain and who would like to see who's the crypto community of Rotterdam, please let them know that we'll be there tomorrow. We'll be there at the 42 workspace, which is kind of a nice techie place to be. Then we have Permissionless Society doing a meetup on the 20th of March, so stay tuned. And then on the 22nd of March, we have
Blockchain for Society. That is the meetup that I'm hosting, and Kirsten is there, yes. Where we will also talk about identity and democracy, so very, very cool. And I would also like this time to talk about the sponsor, which is also the sponsor of this event. For drinks, where are you? Vincent? Okay, stand up. Yeah, so this is a very cool guy. You should totally get his name and contact details and stuff like that. Just a hint. Different guy, but very cool. Yeah, and we are a long-time fan of Blockchain Talks. I've been here since the first one. And yeah, true ally to the cause.
Yes. And what I would like to mention is that thanks to our amazing live stream team, Kijkster, tonight, there's like an extra little thing that we've added. Every tweet tonight, if you tweet BCT, what is it? BCT5, it will appear on the screen. So if you have any questions or if you want to mention anything, please just tweet and share some love. Sorry? When you let people send any sort of messages, I can back them out. Well, it's okay. We're open. Bring it on. Thank you. And now panel discussion with Valeria.
Now we can start with the panel discussion. So I would invite our speakers to kindly join me on the stage for a very friendly chat, actually. That's what it's going to be. Let's actually make it a friendly chat. And so I don't want to start with the usual questions, such as, do you think it's a bubble? Do you think it's not a bubble? Actually, since, I don't know, October, November, December, blockchain has really become mainstream. Everyone is talking about it, and for people who are in the space, it can get a little overwhelming because everyone is making questions and questions and questions. I don't know if it's the case for you as well. And most of the times, always the same questions. So I want to start asking, which is the question that you are most tired of hearing, and what would you say about it to stop replying to that, having to reply to that?
Should I buy Bitcoin? And my favorite reply to it is exactly what's happening to the market right now. Like, this is finally, hopefully, going to shake out a whole bunch of the people who mortgaged their house to buy Bitcoin, which is just an appallingly terrible idea. And with any luck, this is the answer to that question. So hopefully, when the price goes down a bit, people will calm down, the hype will disappear, and we can get back on with doing some proper work.
So I think the single biggest question that I really hate is actually the question you stated. Is this a bubble? But I want to also give like the definitive answer to it. We can make it a bubble, or we can make it not a bubble. And that all has to do with substance in the projects that we all run. So substance is basically, a bubble is nothing more than a balloon of air. Fill it with substance.
Just launch an ICO and you'll fix everything.
Are you really decentralized? And
This is also a
so
good one.
I always remember this post on Hacker News from like 10 months ago, where this guy who's like a really high karma guy on Hacker News, he puts this post in where he says, Solidity is really the worst programming language. Like it makes PHP 5 look like, or PHP look like a work of genius. And he goes with this list of things that are broken in Solidity in the basic programming language. I think that all these ICOs, they totally disregard the fact that we're still really in the plumbing phase. We're still trying to figure out how to write.
For about 10 years, which was a mobile ad network that I set up with a co-founder, and we kind of we got complacent. We made a bunch of mistakes, and we got bored. And so when it came time to either turn it around, put a lot of effort into it, and bring it back up to profitability. Well, we were never not profitable, but we were going to not be profitable. In the end, we just decided, you know what, we're bored, just turn it off. So we turned it off, and I was looking around for what to do next, and the fields that I thought looked really, really interesting were AI and machine learning, blockchain, and biotech. And so I happened to stumble into blockchain meetups first, got completely hooked, and never ended up going to explore the others. And that's kind of why I'm here. And that was probably back in 2015, something like that. So that's me.
So my first venture into Bitcoin or blockchain was about 5.5 to 6 years ago. So I currently run a company called Seal with my brother, and back then I also ran a company with my brother, which is a social mobile games company. So we first read about it on Hacker News and Tweakers, and yeah, we had gaming hardware at our disposal, and that was at our office. So obviously we don't work 24 hours a day, but we made our hardware work 24 hours a day. But then, you know, it was winter time, and it was actually snowing outside, but the office got incredibly hot, so we turned off our mining rigs. And then, you know, one of the first big crashes in Bitcoin came, and at that point we still believed that Bitcoin could die. Yeah, right now we know better. So yeah, that was like our first entry point, and then, you know, came back, went away, came back, and decided, like, okay, we really have to do this.
I guess it was fun from the beginning, from your story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, you know when you announce that you're gay and everybody knows except you? It was a bit like that. So basically, I had a company.
Right.
I had a company for 2 years, and I made an announcement that I was an entrepreneur. And everyone was like, yeah, Mitz, you've had a company for 2 years. So yeah, it took me a while to figure out that that's what was going on. And if I look back, frankly, I've always been an entrepreneur. I started a magazine when I was 11, oh no, wait, 9. And it's always been little projects like that. And when it comes to blockchain, I don't know how I stumbled on a YouTube video. I'm sorry, it's a really boring story.
No, I think it's very common. It's a very common one.
So it was, I think, summer 2016, right? Where we built our first really big app was for Pokemon Go players. We never played it, but we built like a really good data analytics game to win at the gym. And we were like, yeah, we were building it out in our office in the summer. And then like a couple of guys just came into our office, and I work in at the Swiss Institute of Technology. So you have all these kinds of meetups in the same place, and it was like an Ethereum meetup. And I tried to get them excited about Pokemon Go, and like, yeah, why it's really important to focus on that. But they told me to join their meetup, and they started talking about the hard fork, and I thought these guys are so crazy. Yeah, and then we started looking into it, and yeah, we got more and more involved in the community. And then I went to the US. I was in San Francisco for half a year, then in New York, and so I got really into these bi-coastal communities. So yeah, that's basically how we stumbled across. Oh yeah, then I told him, yeah. After the meetup, I told him, yeah, I mean, this is never going to fly because, I mean, you don't have $1 and $1 classic. So I wasn't convinced. but yeah, now I am, sort of.
Thanks. So now maybe one serious question, just one. Hoping not to go in the boring questions that you have been answering many times, multiple times, but we're all waiting for the paradigm shift toward decentralization with blockchain technology. From where do you think this big change should come? From the bottom, from a kind of individual collective action, or from top down? Do you think it will come from top down, so from big companies and policymakers maybe? Like, from where would be the big impact come from toward this shift? Or maybe both?
Yeah, we have a very clear answer for that. This is part of our strategy as well. We believe that you need consumer adoption. So when you see normal people that have nothing to do with blockchain, use the blockchain on a daily basis, interact with it, that is when the blockchain promise has been fulfilled. And you can implement it in companies and do all these type of things, but you will, using that strategy, I don't believe you will get the mainstream mindset switch that you need to get everybody on board a new reality, because that is what it really is. During the break, I told a gentleman that when I was young, I was looking. I was brought up with the MSX and the Spectrum and all these old computers, and the concept of 3D games was like, what? I couldn't comprehend it. How can you have 3D on a 2D surface? I was just unable to comprehend how that was possible. And then I saw it, and then it just clicked. And I think the same is true for blockchain. You need to actually physically interact with it to understand it as a lay person.
I did. That's true. Which I shouldn't have done until I had my thoughts better in order. So I'm not sure paradigm shifts are what we think they are. So I think the paradigm shift will happen and we won't realize it until afterwards. And part of that is because blockchains are infrastructure, right? And kind of you never see the infrastructure. So in a sense, the question, when's there going to be a paradigm shift, is kind of like, if anybody's a computer programmer, when will Erlang go mainstream? Now, Erlang is a computer language that was developed by Ericsson way back when to build phone systems. You use it all the time. You could absolutely argue that Erlang is massively mainstream because it's what makes WhatsApp work. So that's not a paradigm shift. That's people using stuff because somebody built stuff that's useful. And there's a futurist called Clay Shirky who sort of put out the idea that technology doesn't become radically transformative until it's boring. And so one of the things that he talks about is the transformative nature of Meetup and email, and that I think that the biggest Meetup group by far, and we've all seen these power distributions that go like that, and at the time he was speaking, the biggest Meetup group was one called Stay-at-Home Moms. Now, that has nothing to do with technology, and that's great, because the technology goes away because it's boring. Meetup basically works, if you can use a web browser, if you can send an email, you know how Meetup works. So I think I think there will absolutely be paradigm shifts, but we absolutely won't notice them until afterwards. I I have no idea if that's company policy. I don't think so. That's just my opinion.
I think the paradigm shift will be when Lamborghini finally has enough power to have a Lamborghini for all of us. No, no, obviously. I think once we really get over the whole meme and ICO hype, and we really start to get into the phase where people think about the technology like as a really dry, boring subject, you know. When it becomes like algebra being taught in school, where it becomes so boring that it's just like it's like water. It's like you just need it, but you don't think about it. You don't think about it as a disruptive thing, you know. Like I personally, at the moment I'm less excited about blockchain than I am about directed acyclic graphs, which is I think it's the next kind of blockchain thing. Thinking about new technology and thinking about new stack improvements. I think that's what it should all be about, not about self-enrichment and all these things. I mean, that's just so useless.
If you look a little bit what people are voting for, it's usually for change. It's not necessarily for the thing that that they're voting for. I had 2 cases of people who'd voted for a particular party in the last Dutch elections, and they came to me and said, "Oh, I'm so glad they didn't win. Why did you vote for them?" It's almost like you have reality and then you have the dream, and we don't want the dream to become reality because we have this idea that reality is real and it's tough and just suck it up, and the dream can stay there and we constantly go there but we never will make it. And I think I'm not sure what will switch in the narrative, quote Harari, to make people really believe in optimism rather than dystopia, and just say, hey, you know, let's just look at the facts. Let's give it a shot. And I don't know. I have no idea what will make people believe that we do have all the technology. The problem is not technology, it's social.
Thanks. So we've talked very abstractly in this question. Which are the domains, which are the fields that, in your opinion, will be more disrupted by blockchain technology? And which are the ones that you think should be disrupted by the technology?
Oh, this is really like self-promotion, which I want to avoid, but you know, there's a reason why we're doing what we're doing. And if you believe in it, then you should say it. I really believe in securing authenticity of products, particularly value stores, products that increase in value over time. I think there's a really big problem here, and it's also very immediate. It's a very practical application of blockchain or distributed ledger technologies if you want to, move it up one level higher. But I really think that the blockchain or distributed ledgers should enter the physical world.
So if we ask the question about what areas is blockchain most likely to be disruptive in, I'd actually make a case for those being geographical areas rather than socio-economic or socio-political areas. And what I mean by that, so I grew up in Africa for a part of my childhood, and one of the things that the world leader in sort of mobile payments and electronic money was Kenya. For years, they were light years ahead of anything we have in the UK, to an extent now. And I think that blockchain technology provides a similar kind of opportunity for countries to leapfrog over the idea of building their version of what we have. So a lot of so take one classic blockchain project that everybody talks about is land registries. So are you familiar with this? There's Ghana, Honduras, Sweden, for some bizarre reason, are talking about building a land registry on a blockchain. And it makes perfect sense. It's a really good use case. Except that they're talking about this in countries where we already have land registries. So in the UK, there's a pilot program by the UK Land Registry to look at using a blockchain. Who cares? What's the point? We have a land registry. It kind of works. So the real opportunity is in countries where you don't have that, where you don't have trustworthy institutions, where you don't have, I mean, it's really unsexy and boring. We don't have sort of accounting level infrastructure for companies. And I think that blockchain technology has enormous capabilities to enable the developing world to leapfrog over building their version of the stuff that we built and is now tired and dull, and just to go straight to the next version, to the next thing. Just jump over the landline network and build the mobile phone network. But do that in sort of all the areas of where blockchain can help.
I'd like to ask you a question about this, because obviously I've also thought of this, and in my opinion, where blockchain is most needed is where trust is at its lowest. So basically in corrupt societies. But these societies are also the people who call the shots are the ones that at the end decide whether to adopt a blockchain or not. So that's kind of an adoption paradox. How do you think that will work out? How do you get these countries where they need it the most? How can you make them enforce it?
This kind of isn't an interview me panel discussion. I'd kind of like to give other people the opportunity to speak. So I will answer if you want, but I like other people. So the quick answer would be, and again, this is just my opinion and not really backed up by anything much. I think this is going to come about through commercial adoption being the driver. I don't think governments are going to be in a massive hurry to go, you know what, let's decentralize and give up a whole bunch of power. Yeah, not really. But if commercial entities start to build these systems out and they become widespread and adopted and commonplace and obviously better, then you have a pressure from beneath to say, well, okay, hang on, we have this fantastic voting system for this stuff that nobody gives a crap about. Why is this voting system broken and rubbish?
Yeah, so speaking to your point a little bit, like one of the first 50 hosts on our site was a guy from Uganda. And when he appeared, like we didn't advertise in Uganda, and I was like, okay, is this for real? And he put a link to his website, personal website there, and it turned out he's a super host on Airbnb. And on his personal website, for the last 3 years, he put, I would prefer if you pay me in Ethereum. And when I asked him, like, why is that, he told me it's because of corruption. And so I could really feel like adding something by having him basically take it out from the existing monetary system. So I think I'm very optimistic in that regard, that we can basically that we can have a social inclusion aspect, I want to be part of that. I think there are so many applications in terms of voting, in terms of all government records, like having a digital identity. That's extremely important. It's something where I think immutability really makes sense.
The area where a lot of disruption could really help is what we value in society. I think we've lost track, frankly. I went to business school in Madrid, Instituto de Empresa, and there was a professor there who showed a graph. I wish I'd taken a picture of it. It was a big circle, which was the whole, like all the money in the world, and it put a little circle in the middle, which was the real economy, you know, like real stuff that reaches people, not speculation. And it was just like, not even a full stop, it was just and I think we've just really lost it. We don't know, we have our system has become self-serving, and we've forgotten what we're doing as a species. And I think that it would be really great if we could return to the discussion of ethics and our values. What do we want to give priority?
You think blockchain can bring the discourse back to values and ethics a little bit?
No. I think that this issue is social.
You said it already.
Yeah, this is a really, really important one because it's about our narrative. It's about who we are and what we work for. What do we get up for in the morning? And this whole idea that you could trade in your own data is basically a massive scheme to not go to work. I really can't stand office jobs. And, you know, if I could just make money off my identity, that would be wonderful.
I guess for a lot of people. Okay, thanks. I think I'm done with the boring questions. I will ask a last question to Mitzi. I wish there were more women on this stage to ask this question too. There's been a lot of rumor in this period about women in tech. I don't know if you consider yourself a woman in tech. I'm not a woman in tech, but I've come across this topic, and I think it's a good occasion to discuss this. And I was wondering whether you have an idea on that, if you have an idea of what the role of women in tech could be, should be.
I think that the issue on gender is a little confused. Okay.
Totally.
I think we're focusing too much on, is it men or is it women? No, it's about the space in between. It's about our relationship. And I'm really, really waiting. Boys, step up. We, as women, if I look at my mother, my grandmother, myself and my sister, we've really evolved in our identity. So what I would really love to see is boys doing something with their identity, evolve it. Because we've stagnated in what it means. I mean, like, I can turn up in trousers, okay? Just as a basic example. I can turn up in trousers and you do not question my sexuality. If the boys here were wearing a skirt, it would be a big issue. Yeah, a kilt. Okay, yeah, I'm quarter Scottish. I know all about kilts. I've got a tartan. Sutherland. But I mean, yeah, that's an exception. I think it is pretty ridiculous that boys are so restricted in what they can wear. And I don't think we should be talking about girls in technology. I think we should be talking about boys in marketing. Why are boys not in marketing?
Couldn't hope in a better answer. Thank you very much. Thanks to all of you. Very nice discussion. We have our last speaker. You already met him on the stage. It's Chris, for sure. He's going to talk about seal, with focusing on proving the authenticity of products through blockchain technology. An applause to Chris, to Bart. Sorry.
Can everybody hear me? Yes. All right. So my name is Bart Verschoor. I guess more or less. I think it's fine. Yeah. All right. So my name is Bart Verschoor. I'm the CEO of Seal. And what is Seal? Seal is a blockchain-powered product authentication and services platform for brands and consumers. But before we go into that, what is a brand? To us, a brand is nothing more than a symbol of the collective effort of all the hardworking artists, programmers, designers, risk-takers who dedicate their lives beating on their craft, honing their skills, spending hours upon hours, weeks upon weeks, years after years, perfecting what they do. And you know, they make the products that we all love. They turn things into culture, and the sad thing is, it's getting counterfeited by the millions. So I am a creator myself. My co-founder is my brother, who is also a creator. My mother is an artist, and we have seen the impact of counterfeiting ourselves. My mother's products were actually counterfeited, and our family suffered from it. But that's not really, you know, that's a personal story. But the bigger problem is much worse than this. So counterfeiting market, where you buy perhaps like a Michael Kors wallet, or you go on AliExpress and you buy your fake. So we bring blockchain into the physical world via chips. Well, we all know that the blockchain is very secure, but we also kind of need that property on physical items. So how do you do that? Well, we use dynamic chips. They're very secure. It would take several billion years of brute forcing to actually crack them. We work with NXP to do so. And well, at least they say it would cost around $12 million per chip to crack one. And even if that would happen, every time you interact with it, the state changes on the chip, and it would get out of sync. So we would still, you know, see whether a product is tampered with or not. So what do we do besides just checking authenticity? You know, this is just a start, right? Because this is the infrastructure. We have we can bring the blockchain to the physical world. But what kind of options does this open? We can, for the first time, register items as property, and also beat parallel trade, midnight shifting. We can do theft prevention, and we can do proper product recalls, which is a big problem. So there's all sorts of services that we can expand upon, and we don't even know what's possible yet. There are many different options and different applications that we haven't discovered ourselves yet, which is why we're also opening up the technology for third parties. So if you look at how the system works, our vision is to become eventually the currency of authenticity. So we have a token, and this token is used to pay a transaction fee to us and brands. Brands are basically the issuer of their own products. They take back control, so it's not the factory anymore. The factory can't, for instance, instead of producing 1,000 products, you know, make 10,000 products or 2,000 products. When they, you know, this is what a midnight shift is. They just, you know, create some extra items during the night and sell it through the back door, which is a big problem. And a lot of these, you know, problems that are very much adjacent to counterfeiting get solved when you have the right infrastructure. So apart from the transaction costs, which allow brands to actually earn money, which is a first, we want to have it so that people can buy products in full with our token. And the reason why we want to do that is because that is the first time when people can have a guaranteed exchange of goods. So normally you would, for instance, on eBay or Marktplaats, you would, meet up to buy something, and you're trying to book over the money from ING to ABN. It's going to take 2 days, so you don't want to do that. Instead, what you do is you go to the ATM and you get money, and then you pay them in cash. Well, the seller doesn't know that you actually go to the ATM. That money could be counterfeit, and the buyer doesn't really know whether the product is real. So when you use it, when you use this technology to purchase items outright and transact it on a ledger, you, for the first time, cover both buyer and seller. And this is new. And this is very exciting because, brands are hurting from counterfeiters, mostly from China, but consumers are hurting as well. I myself am a collector. This is also where the ID, was born from, out of me collecting stuff that quickly rose in value. And as it rose in value, the incentive to counterfeit these products increased. So, for me, it's getting more and more difficult to buy the products I love because there's just no confidence anymore. These counterfeiters are getting really freaking good. And that's a problem, because once market integrity erodes, that's basically when a lot of categories start to fail, product categories. So our focus point from this point on is mostly value stores, items that rise in value, as I said. So what type of items are these? These are comic books. These are expensive wines. These are luxury items, fashion items. These are sneakers, exclusive sneakers. There's a multi-billion-dollar industry worth of just sneaker freaks. People, you've seen these, these pictures of people camping out at the Apple Store. Well, the same is true for sneakers. And there's a lot of niches out there like this that, people either spend their money on traveling and going out to eat, or on hobbies. So that's where we are focusing on. The ultimate vision, of course, is to secure all types of products, consumer goods. We sort of take a Tesla approach, where we start with the Roadster, the Model S, Model 3, and I think that's also a good, a really good strategy, especially for the blockchain industry, because a lot of people, when you're talking about adoption, I think this is interesting to mention, is a lot of people who are already into the blockchain, they have already made some money trading, and you actually see a big uptake in the sales of not just Lambos, but luxury goods, right? So there's a natural affinity, and if you're looking at adoption, this is important, because the idea is nice, and the product is nice, which I'll show you later, but in the end, you need to have some path to market, and this is where I think the entire blockchain industry is really missing its mark. We decided to make this out of love for creation, to protect the brands and the consumers. But we also started this because we really see this as the way forward and the route to mainstream adoption of blockchain technology. Thanks. I'll quickly show you a little demo. So I was born in the 80s, big Super Nintendo lover. This is a mint condition Super Nintendo game. It's worth about 350 euros, which was a bargain. Some games will be like Chrono Trigger is 3,500 euros, and there are some Super Nintendo games worth 30,000 euros. So you know it's a lot of money. So I open the Seal app. So it's ready to scan. I just scan it, and it's already done. It's authenticated. Now I can claim it, and after I claim it, I can transfer it, which is very nice because the brand actually gets a kickback every time it's transferred. So that's interesting for collectibles, and you know these type of items that generally have a life cycle of 10, 25, 50 years. These companies can start to really build entirely new revenue streams based on the products they already have out there. So yeah, that's why we think we'll be successful in doing so. And I'd love to take any questions you may have.
Test. Here we go. In your talk, you mentioned about how you have a token that's central to what you do, and that leads me to ask, you have done an ICO, you will do an ICO, and when can we, or will we in the future, be able to see under which letters be able to see or find your token on the various exchanges?
Yes, so we have an exchange agreement. I'm not sure if we can talk about it yet, but we do have one. We are doing an ICO in the coming weeks. So if you just join our Telegram group on t.me/sealnetwork, you should find all the answers you have, if you want. Here.
Well, thanks for the presentation. I have a couple of questions. Sorry. First of all, the example is really nice. My first question was, who puts the chip in something that's secondhand produced before Seal was started?
Yeah.
Because to say why I like it is because on King's Day I bought it was a poster of it was hand-painted poster of like a movie. And the guy had a nice story, but I have to look in his eyes. Is he telling bullshit or is it a real poster? So it would become handy if I could scan. This is real handmade film poster.
Well, that's having that nice story and not knowing whether it's bullshit or not is actually what happens in Christie's and Sotheby's as well. And sometimes they do get it wrong. So that's very nice. So who issues ultimately these products on the blockchain, right? So we only sell the solution to brands themselves, or professional authentication companies or grading services or auction houses. So people that appraise whether products are real or not. And then we do not authenticate the product, but the case the product encloses. And the reason for that is because the example I showed you, it's a Super Nintendo game from a company called Kui. Well, we cannot guarantee that authenticity, but we can guarantee VGA, which is Video Game Authentication. That's the company. So we put the trust in VGA. And if you don't want to trust VGA, then in that case it wouldn't be possible to retrofit. If you wouldn't trust Christie's, then you can't retrofit. But otherwise, yeah, that's the way.
The second question is because you're doing an ICO.
Mm-hmm.
Which means you're selling the token, and then it will be on the exchange, so it will be like a huge volatility, which I can imagine that brands or other people using it need to pay transaction fees. Gives a lot of uncertainty. How do you relate it to the fact that you say, okay, it has to do with mass adoption? And so like everyone who wants to use the token, whether it's a consumer or a brand, needs to buy these tokens, which I think if you have no clue how these private keys and stuff works, it can be quite difficult.
Well, for consumers, we would be able to just, instead of going on Kraken or, I don't know, Bittrex or whatever. Yeah, you would just buy them directly in the app. The app is basically a wallet. And for the brands, obviously, you know, they probably don't, or they maybe they do, but perhaps they don't want to have any crypto holdings, so they would be able to convert immediately to fiat. So that shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah, so maybe my question is, why don't you charge in euros or?
Okay.
The very last question.
Good question. Is it working? Yeah. Do you only plan to sell the product to brands that do like shoes and nice shiny things, or also to food companies that make like a perfect wine or?
Yes and no. So we have a customer, which is a winery. They sell bottles worth like 1,200 euros each. So these are, yeah, also you could say speculative or collector wines. And for that use case, you know, you need different type of chips or inlays and so on. But yeah, just really doing food is, I believe, not. There are projects that do that. Ambrosis does pharmaceuticals, and there's few others that try to do so. But in my opinion, if you're really going to go for food, the volumes will be so big that it's impossible to do it with the current scalability issues of blockchain technologies. Yeah, maybe Hashgraph could solve some of it. But right now, I think that you would just choke the blockchain and have a not working product.
Thank you very much. That's it for tonight. I hope you enjoyed our meetup, and I hope I see you next month. Actually, we have an extra event at the beginning of April. Ellie's gonna say something about it.
Oh, okay. So on the, I don't know if this is working anymore. So on the 4th of April, we'll be hosting Ask Me Anything. We want to do something a bit different. I think we've had I counted 27 speakers till now, but I mean, with this session will be, I don't know, 35 or more speakers. And maybe you want to be the one, not on stage, but maybe you want to be the one asking questions. And you want to be asking questions directly to blockchain experts. And maybe you have a blockchain startup, or you have an idea and you don't know where to start. And we want to line up blockchain experts for you. We'll sit them down, and you will be having, you know, a chance to have a one-on-one with the blockchain experts, which I can tell you is very expensive. But we're making it affordable. We're making it this for you. We're making it this for the Amsterdam blockchain community. So see you on the 4th of April. And thank you very much for coming tonight. And if I don't see you on the 4th of April, well, we'll see you in a month. Thank you very much.